You probably didn't think that RVers and Squid Game contestants have anything in common. Well, I'm about to prove you wrong, coming up next. Hey, so welcome back to Claim the Vision. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about Squid Games. And I know this is this big show that's just taken Netflix by storm. If you haven't seen it or you haven't heard about it, well, I don't know what rock you've been under, but I'm going to teach you a little bit here. If you haven't seen it and you want to see it, well, spoiler alert, there's some spoiler alerts in this video, so proceed with caution. So there's 456 players, all heavily indebted to someone or something for whatever reasons. So they're lured into this game with the promise of money, like lots and lots of money. And they don't know exactly what's happening, but as they go through the process, they learn what it's all about. First off, they start playing a game like red light and green light, the little childhood game. Red light, you stop, green light, you go, and if you move after they call red light, you get eliminated, right? At least that's the children's version of the game. In Squid Games, if you're eliminated, you're pretty much just dead. Like, they just are like, you're done. Elimination is permanent in Squid Game. The last person standing wins money. 100 million, well, whatever the South Korean currency is, per player eliminated. So 456 players means 4.5 billion currency things of what it is. So there's a lot of money that's to be played. So the very first game was red light, green light, and that kind of was setting the tone for the entire episode. But in the Honeycomb episode, this is an episode where all players have to choose a symbol. There's 4 symbols. It's either a star, a circle, an umbrella, or a triangle. And everybody picks a symbol. They line up behind the symbol that they want, and then they get this little tin. And it turns out it's a honeycomb. It's candy. And their job in this task is to remove the symbol without breaking the honeycomb, without breaking the candy. So everybody with their honeycomb in their little tin, they also have a needle. If they do it successfully, they move on to the next game. If they don't do it successfully, then they're eliminated. So this is why I think this game is a lot like RVing, because it requires some creativity, sometimes requires some out-of-the-box thinking, because how many times have we been out on the road and all of a sudden you have something that breaks, something that goes wrong? Maybe there's a malfunction. I've heard stories of people just driving down the road and all of a sudden their awning deploys. And you're out in the middle of the road, you have nowhere to go, and you're going to have to try and figure out, what do I do? Do I take it down? Do I attach it this? Just a little while ago, it happened to me when I lost my footing for the equalizer jack. I tried to level on dirt, and I realized I don't have a footing, so I had to figure out, well, how am I going to get this to work? And it requires some out-of-the-box thinking, right? We've all been there. We have to be a little creative on coming up with solutions that fit our needs. Well, in this episode of Squid Games, they found a couple solutions. One of them, player 456 realized that by using the heat, moisture from your tongue, he's able to work it from the backside in the heat to be able to get this to come off. There was another player that had a lighter and was able to use the heat from the lighter on the needle to be able to kind of poke their way to make the things work. And all of that is fantastic because it requires out-of-the-box thinking. It required a little bit of non-traditional thinking sometimes to be able to get the job done. And we as full-time RVers, especially those that are boondocking out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes we have to be very creative with some out-of-the-box solutions to be able to get us out of a jam. Whether you're stuck in the mud or whatever, you definitely have to think about what you're doing. And then here's more. With the girl with the needle who used the lighter, she passed that on to player 101 to be able to help survive as well. And us as RVers, we need to, at the same time, continue to pass along our knowledge to new RVers to be able to help them get out of a jam. The more that we can continue to educate out on the road, the more fun experience we're all going to have. And then also player 456, who was using this tongue to be able to heat up the candy to be able to make it work, other players caught on to that. And so you get these people too, where I'm sure you've all done it. I've done it, where you see somebody backing into an RV spot, or maybe you're doing something, and you just kind of watch. How are they setting up? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What do they do differently than you do? And that's another area where I kind of look and say, you know what? That's just another way of being able to pass along knowledge, is by, I don't want to say staring or spying at other people when they're doing their setup and breakdown, but it's another way you can learn. Okay, this one may not be so positive and friendly, but I think we've all been here too. In the episode, it's called Stick to the Team. So that when you're eliminated, you're pretty much killed. You're eliminated from the game, you're eliminated from life. And up until this point, it was assumed that the only way you can get eliminated was by losing a game. But in this episode, a fight broke out in the dorm halls where all the beds were. One of the players got killed because he attacked another player who stole his food. So there's this uproar of the people. They're saying, hey, someone's dying in here. And the guards, they wouldn't do anything about it. They just stood there. And there was this long, awkward moment. And then all of a sudden, there's a PA announcement. And it says, the player has been eliminated. And then the board changed. And the money went up. And the guards came in with the casket to remove the body. And it was at that moment where all of a sudden you go, wait, I thought we were all in this together, but now I can eliminate other players, not just in the game, but in the dorms. It's not safe here anymore. And that aha moment was very obvious. And to me, I think of, have you ever checked into a first come, first served campsite where you think that, oh, there's all these great people here and you're really looking forward to it. But then as you're looking for a spot, you realize that there's only one waterfront campground left, or only one site with a 50 amp service left, and everyone else is like tucked in the boonies. And you start looking around and you go, wait a minute, why is this tiny little rig with 30 amp power taking up this big old space? They should be up on this side. And then all of a sudden it's war when you're driving around and you see other people driving around trying to get that same spot. That's all of a sudden when you start to see RVers turn on each other, when there's only one space left. Otherwise, you're like out in the boonies, or there's just some weird kind of situation. I've gone through it a lot of times in the Thousand Trails part, where you just never, it's just never an easy experience getting a site. You know, a lot of the Thousand Trails parks, yeah, you're not getting the prime spot your first day. You have to kind of like work your way up to it. It's an every man for themselves kind of situation. And that's kind of how like this episode of Squid Games was, when all of a sudden you realize that you thought you were this happy group of campers until there's only one site left, and then it's every man for themselves. The last example I have is the very last episode of the entire season. And when player one comes back, this is about a year after the official games ended. Player one shows up and he's on his deathbed and he's looking out the window of this office building, looking down at a homeless man who's freezing and drunk. And then player 456 shows up and they have this conversation and they go to one last game. What do you want to bet that nobody's going to come to help this homeless man in the snow who's drunk and passed out before midnight? What do you think? You know, do you think anybody's going to come and help this man? And as the night goes on and it starts to snow and people come up but nobody ever helps, until the very last minute, where a man who had walked by previously flagged down a police officer and get him to safety, the homeless man. And I think sometimes that's something that we all need to do as RVers, where if you see somebody on the road, you see somebody struck, you see somebody stranded, is to lend a helping hand, you know, to help another RVer, because we're all going to be in a situation where we're going to be stuck somewhere at some point for whatever reason. If you see somebody struggling, you got to stop and help. You got to take them time to be able to help a fellow RVer, pay it forward, because there will come a time where you're going to be in that same spot as well and wish that somebody had stopped to help you. So I think us as a community of full-time RVers or part-time RVers, we need to do a better job of looking out for each other. I hear stories and other YouTubers talk about how their stuff gets stolen from campsites and how they don't trust anybody. They got cameras all over the place, and I got cameras too, don't get me wrong. But I think that if we all kind of work together to create a stronger community, then we would all have a better experience. And there's a lot of RVers that get into the lifestyle that quit just because they get turned off by other RVers, let alone, you know, first come, first serve campsites and the things that might include. All these things take away from the positive, joyful experience that RVing should bring to you. So I wish that we as a community can all come together more and help out each other when needed. So anyway, sorry I had to move into the rig because it was getting a little too windy outside, but Thanks for watching. I'm kind of curious, do you see any other parallels between the games that were in Squid Games and the lifestyle of a full-time RVer? I'd really be interested in hearing what you have to say about all that. As always, please be sure to like and subscribe to this video. It really does help grow the channel and get this good information out to everybody. If you have any other comments, just drop them in the comments below and let me know just in general, like, did you watch Squid Games and how long did it take you to finish the whole series? I did it in 2 days, I think. It's like 9 episodes, so 9 hours. I think I did it in 2 days or so. So anyways, thanks for watching Claim the Vision, and I'll see you on the road.